Hello, so I just want to make this video about what to expect when you buy rental properties. So if you don't have any experience in having rental properties, there's a few things you should expect. And if you're expecting these, then you're just going to be just fine. We all wish that you're buying a property that's turnkey. When I say turnkey, means that it has a tenant inside and they're paying the rents and everything's hunky-dory. There's no issues. Unfortunately, that's not always the truth. So you might have a tenant inside. When you go do the inspection, sometimes they'll tell you, sometimes they don't. The previous owner might tell you some stuff, but they're not living in the property, so they might not know everything that goes on. One of the things, number one, is tenant. I always ask the previous owners to get me a rent roll, and what that does, it tells you, how much they're paying on the property and the leases too. But you can see how long they've been there for and if they're current on their rent or whatnot. Some sellers or previous owners, if they have a third-party company, that's perfect because you can get it from the third party. If they're managing it themselves, sometimes they don't keep record of that stuff. So they'll say, oh, I don't have it. So you don't really know. You just have to take their word for it that they have been paying on time, that they're current. So number one is a tenant. You don't know how they got pre-qualified too. So there's certain things that I do when I pre-qualify a person and I manage my properties, my rentals majority of the time. I just now, because I've been really, really busy, hired a property manager, but I need to make sure they make 3 times the amount of rent. Check their credit. Now, depending on the area that you're in, the area that I'm in, a lot of people don't have credits, and it's really, really a cash business here. So either they don't have credits or they might have collections. Know your area and what market you're going after. You cannot expect 800 credit scores if you're not in an A type property. So not to say that you're going to find them, but most of the people that do have that kind of score, they probably own a property. So see their credit. And then what I check is what's happened in the last year. If you see that they've been late, like they do have credit and they're late on everything up until now, then what are the odds that they're going to be late on your rent? Probably they're going to be late on the rent. So you don't know if that's how they got qualified or not. That's one of the things. Oh, my phone's going off, but that's okay. So the tenant, what kind of tenant they are, check their criminal background. So do the due diligence, but when you're buying it, you just kind of have to get the reports that's been there. So it might not be, just because it's occupied might not mean it's the kind of tenant you want in there. And that's something that you'll know after. So they might not pay on time. And for me, what I always did is, look, the rent's due on the 1st. By the 5th is your last day to pay is on the 5th. On the 6th, you're getting the late fee, plus your 3-day notice. And then on the 10th, I'm filing for eviction. Whatever the story is, why they're late, I stick to it so they know. Once I file for an eviction, there's a pretty hefty fee that gets charged, and it is on my lease. So it gets charged to them, and that's fine as long as they pay before we go to court. I still file. It doesn't matter what it is. In some states, it takes, I'm originally from California, it takes a long time over there. Here in Jackson, it doesn't take as long as it did in California, but it does still take some time. So the longer you wait, the longer it makes it worse, and your potential of not getting any rents. So stick to the plan. 5th is the last day to pay. 6th, 3-day notice and late fee. On the 10th, you file with the court. Very, very simple, to the point. And then they already know what to expect. So tenant might not be that great. Also, tenants, work orders. There's a lot of times when you're taking over a property, there's a lot more work orders. The previous tenant probably just may be tired of being landlording and might have not fixed anything, right? So you're going to have more work orders at the beginning. Expect that. Um, Sometimes they'll give you bogus work orders. And what I mean by that is they might not want to pay the rent, and they'll come up with the reasoning is, oh, well, this is not fixed. I'm not going to pay. Know your laws in your state, wherever you're at, because for us here, the law is that they have to give ample time to fix the work order. And after that time, then they use the rent money to fix it and deduct it off the rent. So know your state laws. Now, if it's something major like, the roof is caving in, or there's a huge leak or something, you have to take immediate action and fix that. But just be prepared for more work orders. If it's a bogus work order, you kind of have to read between lines and troubleshoot over the phone. But what I do with my tenants that create bogus work orders is I charge them a trip charge. And that's all on my lease. So if I took over a lease, if I took over a rental property that had a tenant in there, first thing I do is I have them do my lease, right? And if they don't want to do your lease, then that's when you just, you keep them to month and then see how they pay. But that's up to you how you handle it. I would probably see how they goes the first month, and if that's going to be an issue, then start the process, or automatically hand them the 30-day notice that they need to leave. So work orders, and it says right on there, if you call for bogus work orders, then you're gonna pay, and I've had that a couple of times. I had one lady that, oh, my heater's not working. Okay, so we get out there, the heater's working just fine. So it was just like an excuse not to pay. Not to say all tenants are like this, but if you have that mentality in mind that you're going to have issues, then it's going to be smooth sailing. So that's the thing. You're going to have some deferred maintenance, majority of the time. So what I tell you, if you're buying 10 properties that are turnkey, expect on only getting rent a half of it for the next 3 months. You're going to have a downtime of 3 months to pay it, to stabilize it. That way your tenant knows what your rules are. So if you pay on the 1st, by the 5th, after the 5th is late, then you go to court. You getting them used to your system. The problem is if you let people get away with not paying 1 month, you're not really doing them a favor. If they couldn't pay that month, it's a lot harder for them to catch up. So if you stick to the program, and their conscience that, hey, if I don't pay, they're going to go ahead and evict me, then they'll make a better effort to go ahead and pay. So expect to only get paid 50% of the rent for the next 3 months till you stabilize it. And what by that means, getting your tenants on track, getting your work orders on track, getting everything on track to your system. And then after that, it'll be a lot easier. Expect to have more work orders. Expect to have deferred maintenance. You can do a lot of inspections. But again, you're not going into the pipes to see what's going on. So if you take into consideration those 3 months when you do your numbers, then you should be fine. And I hope that helps. So then that way you're not getting into something, buying all these rental properties and then saying, oh, well, they're crap, I'm not making the money. Well, no, usually you don't. On the first 3 months, you're making half of what you're suspected. And then sometimes you have to evict people. You might have to evict them, and depending on your state. But here, it takes about 3 months to evict them. Every time somebody moves, you usually have to do something, even if it's just cleaning. If you have to clean the property to left stuff behind, there is some stuff to be done. So just be aware of that, and I think you'll be fine. But just set your expectations with these issues, and then you'll be a lot better. If you don't have any of these problems, then hey, you got a better profit. But if you had the same issues, then it'd be no problem because you already took that into consideration. I hope that helps.